When I left the hospital after giving birth to my child, two words excited me about my journey to come: food autonomy. My own body was capable of producing the food my baby needed. I didn't know that breastfeeding was a major undertaking. I didn't know that it also would mean pumping, and that both pumping and feeding will take about a quarter of my time, through day and night. I didn't know that by choosing to feed my child exclusively with breast milk, I would be in the minority of women who do so. I didn't know that my life would revolve around my milk production. I do know that most people don't know this, so I can't believe how much women do in silence. That strikes me as a very lonely activity, said my partner when he found me sitting in the kitchen pumping milk in the middle of the night. I didn't know that choosing to spend time away from my baby to continue developing my career will be painful, and that pumping would be such a labor-intensive activity that required planning, tools, and time. I didn't know that my breast would be engorged. I didn't know that it hurts when that happens. I didn't know that when pumping, sometimes the milk just doesn't flow. Something's got to click, a hormone, a message needs to be sent from my brain to my glands. Now I know that that is called the letdown reflex, and it happens when the tiny nerves in my breast get excited, usually by the baby, and cause the hormones oxytocin and prolactin to be released into my bloodstream. Even when I didn't know that, I could feel it. It's like a rush of pure drugs. Both the baby and I get high. We feel peaceful and calm. I read that breastfeeding brings my stress levels down and helps me fall asleep faster and deeper. When I'm pumping, it's not the same. But eventually the rush comes and all the milk starts flowing, and then, what a relief. I didn't know that I would start leaking in the feeding room at the store or at the register line. I didn't know that when the baby sleeps through the night, I would wake up at 5 a.m. with one of my breasts huge and hard like a melon. I didn't know that I could produce more milk than what the baby needs, and that my freezer would be packed with bags of milk, all labeled with the date and amount. My life's work of the past few months lives in my freezer. I didn't know that I wouldn't be able to do most things that regular people do without taking a break for pumping. Now I know that this relationship between the baby and me is something that can't follow the rules of modern society as we have built it. Now I know that I'm the happiest when I get to spend the entire day with the baby, because only her can empty me well. Now I know that most spaces and activities are not inclusive of people who need to pump or breastfeed. Is there a place and a time for me to pump comfortably? What's the pump etiquette? How many women have I seen pumping? Now on breastfeeding, can I bring the baby with me everywhere? Can I make money to support my family and give my baby the best nutrition and care possible? The answer is no. I can't have both. According to the Convention of the Rights of the Child, every infant and child has the right to good nutrition. The World Health Organization and UNICEF recommend early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour of birth, but 3 in 5 babies are not breastfed in the first hour of their lives. Exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life and introduction of complementary foods at 6 months together with continued breastfeeding up to 2 years of age or beyond. This is so that children can achieve optimal growth, development, and health. Breastfeeding reduces infant mortality as well as the health cost for families. This is especially important in places where the water supply is not safe, where risk for diarrhea is high. Breastfeeding also reduces a woman's risk of ovarian and breast cancer. However, nearly 2 out of 3 infants are not exclusively breastfed for the recommended 6 months. And why is this? 3 main reasons. The pressure for women to return to waged work, the intervention of a medical profession dominated by men in childbirth and the upbringing of children, and the invention of a very profitable food alternative for babies, the formula. I didn't know until I got pregnant that the United States is the only developed country that does not have a federal family leave policy. I didn't know that applying for the New York State family leave was going to require 2 mailed applications, 1 faxed and several emails and phone calls to receive only 67% of my salary, and for only 12 weeks. I wish the state knew that I cannot pay only 67% of my rent. This policy is dependent on a very restrictive definition of employment, excluding people like domestic workers, farm workers, casuals, subcontractors, part-timers, or anybody working in the informal economy. We live in a society that has turned its back for caregiving to caregiving. By prioritizing individualism and meritocracy, it blatantly ignores the fact that we are interdependent. Now the baby formula problem. They say that people who have a doula are less likely to undergo a C-section, more likely to breastfeed, and more likely to do so in the first hour of the baby's life. This all has to do purely with access to information on what is best for the mother and the child, which is something hard to get from healthcare providers. I had to spend 3 days in the hospital after my child's birth. During that time, I had to fend off numerous pediatricians and nurses who would question my choice of exclusively breastfeeding and who tried to push the use of formula, arguing that the baby was losing weight and that my milk would not be enough. First, it is normal for babies to lose weight on the first days after birth, and second, those people should see my freezer now. There is inappropriate marketing of baby formula which has targeted mainly poor people across the globe, and medical providers and entire pediatric associations in many countries who are directly sponsored by formula producers. Before I was pregnant, I didn't know that there was a federal program called WIC, Women, Infant, and Children, of which I am now a beneficiary. It turns out that this program and its enormous subsidies for the use of formula for poor women is largely responsible for making 4 producers the main providers of baby formula in the country. One of them had a major recall of products earlier in 2022, which caused the most devastating baby formula shortage in the country. This is very problematic. This is a violation of the rights of children. This is gender discrimination. This is food injustice. This is a crime against humanity.